We're gonna be here all day. We're gonna be here all day, baby. I like this kind of party.
Welcome back to the Wayback, everybody. Ryan Sickler here. Excited to have this guest in the Wayback with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, Andy Richter here in the Wayback.
Hi there.
Welcome to the Wayback,
I
buddy.
wish I'd worn long pants. Because I just know what this is. I got
a bunch of
I always talk belly and that's what I was on TV for so long because they put the skinny guy behind a desk and I had to sit there with no protection and just get to showcase the belly and
Yeah. Well, it's great to have your belly and balls on the Wayback.
Thank
Andy
you so
Richter.
much. Thank you.
Promote whatever you'd like, please.
Andy Richter Call-In Show on SiriusXM on Wednesdays, channel 104, and then the podcast, The Three Questions, which is wherever you get your podcasts. I've been doing that for a number of years. It's an interview podcast, sort of like your other one, and that's about it. Clausen pickles, they're really good.
I start this episodes always by asking people if they ever sat in this old school wagon seat that
rear
faced traffic.
facing station wagon. Yes. We had a few of them.
So you owned one. Okay.
Yeah. The first one was, and this is early on when my mother remarried and our new stepfather he had just bought it. A Pontiac station wagon, a red Pontiac station wagon with a rear facing seat. And it was a used car, but he had, like I say, he had just bought it. And they went on kind of like a little honeymoon to a state park in Illinois and brought my brother and me because it was really, they had their own room, but their own cabin. But my brother and I on the drive to Starved Rock State Park,
looked like one of these.
Yeah, it was that. It was earlier than that, but that's it basically. And Fire
Thorn Red.
That's a good looking car, though. I would love to have that car. But my brother and I there was all kinds of in the cracks of the seat, like kids' toys and stuff, like the previous family.
Oh, from the other family.
Yeah, from the previous family that he didn't know anything about, and money. And so like the whole drive, we were and then we'd like hop over to get into the other seats and to empty those out. And then we had an Oldsmobile, a big old Oldsmobile. I want to say it was called a custom cruiser. I don't remember, but it was blue with wood sides. It had an electric tailgate, like that went down into
the glass would go
it would. Yeah. Well, the glass would go down, and then it would go down into the body of the car.
Really?
Yeah. It was, it was like a pocket door.
Yeah.
But into the car, so it was like a flat back, and my mom would drive there. That one right there.
Go ahead, get up there, Andy Richter.
That one right.
Boom. Oh my God,
that's it.
We had relatives that had that too. I didn't know the glass did that.
Yeah. The glass would go down, and then that goes into the bottom of the car, which has got to be like that car had to weigh 6,000 pounds because like just for the structure of what are you seeing? Is it that thing spinning around?
No, it's the children
kids
in the back.
Yeah.
Wait, so the door does what now too?
It goes down into the body of the car.
Wow. It so sort of slides under.
Yeah, it doesn't flip down. It goes, like recedes into the body. So then you got a flat back with no overhang. But in order to like support that, there has to be like such a beefed up chassis back there to hold a door underneath it. But I delivered the Aurora Beacon News. That was like the daily newspaper.
So you had a paper route.
I had a paper route.
How old were you at the time?
I was probably 12.
This your first
13.
like working thing?
Yeah, yeah. And then, but I also delivered the Kendall County Shopper.
You got two papers?
Which I had two paper routes. And the Kendall County Shopper was like one of those penny saver kind of papers that would come out once a week. But it was like 400 of them. Like my regular paper route was like maybe 40
And do you have
people.
the white bag sling over you? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, not for the Kendall County, because the shopper paper there were too many of them. You couldn't carry them all. So it kind of, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like I got a paper out and my mom had to drive me virtually every time. And it was on the other side of town too. And I had a friend with me, or maybe it was just my brother and one of his friends, but we were doing it together. And we had all the papers in the back and the tailgate, down.
Mm-hmm.
And we were jumping out of the back of the car and like sitting with our legs hanging over the back.
You know what time it is. It's time for a fresh approach to dog food, and that is where the Farmer's Dog comes in. Developed by a board-certified nutritionist, the Farmer's Dog is human-grade dog food that's made with real meat and veggies and gently cooked to preserve nutrients. Traditional pet food is highly processed and difficult to portion correctly, but the Farmer's Dog has changed that with their freshly made food. The pre-portioned packs are simple to serve and ensure your dog is eating the right amount to keep them healthy and thriving. This is Princess Lily Rose right here tearing up Farmer's Dog right now. Her favorite are the chicken and the turkey. They come, like we said, in pre-portioned packs. Her name is on it, and it's super easy to use, and she loves it. Plus, the Farmer's Dog delivers right to your door, automatically sending you new food as soon as you're running low. Get 50% off your first box of fresh, healthy food at thefarmersdog.com/wayback. Plus, you get free shipping. Just go to thefarmersdog.com/wayback to get 50% off. That's thefarmersdog.com/wayback.
And my mom pulled into a driveway that was on like a little rise, and I went up and threw the paper, and then I sat back down and I laid back down with my legs dangling down. But because she was backing off of a grade, my foot got caught in like a pothole or something, and it snapped my foot back.
No.
Yeah. And she like basically backed over my, she didn't run over my leg, but she backed up and my foot, like I could feel it like snap back and snap forward, hyperextend. And it was broken. I had a broken leg. And I hopped up and like, I hopped up and ran to the front of the car and I went, I think it's broken. I think it's broken. I think it's broken. But I did walk to the front of the car myself. We finished the papers but by the time I got home, I couldn't walk on it. I had to be like helped into the house.
Did you have any other jobs? High school jobs?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. This is
the window going up.
This is how it. Yeah, clamshell wagon tailgate.
Look at that.
Yeah,
that's bad.
Yeah,
I want that now. Now I want that. What is that? An Oldsmobile custom cruiser?
Yeah. I'm
wild.
surprised I still remember the name, but yeah, it was a custom cruiser.
I mean, I guess
it looks like it says it's the 70s. So
I guess if that door don't work, it just becomes like a pickup.
It was
station wagon pickup truck.
It really was, and I think it too was designed so that it could carry like a 4x8 of plywood. Like it was meant to also be like a work vehicle too. But I had the paper routes.
High school jobs?
I worked with my stepfather had a plumbing business. And then through that plumbing business, my mother started a cabinet business, and I worked for both of them, which really fucking sucks in the summer because I worked for my mom, throughout. I actually went and got a job at the grocery store so I wouldn't have to work for my mother. So I was like, I'm sorry, I'm getting another job because there's nothing. It's like especially on a Saturday or in the summertime. To work for your parent who's a yeller anyway, and then you come home and it's like mow the yard.
Yeah.
Like I distinctly remember there being like there was something I was gonna go to, and it was like you can't go until you mow after working for her all day, and then like no, you got to mow the lawn before you leave. And we had a big fucking lawn, so I was
riding mower.
No, it was a push mower
really?
At that point. We had a riding mower that died, and we never replaced it because we couldn't afford to. So,
do you remember the address of the house?
1201 Game Farm Road, and the game farm is named because my grandpa, that's the house. That's the house my great grandfather built.
It's the one he built.
Yeah.
Your great grandfather built this.
Yeah, but you see how it like there's a sort of a wing that goes off to the right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my mom and stepdad added on.
Okay, so from that front door to the right is an
the
add-on?
two-story where there's two
the
windows
four
above
windows.
each other
Okay.
to the left. That was the original house.
Wow.
And then
That
above
is a big fucking yard. You push mowing that thing, dude,
push
in the
mowed that
summer?
thing in the summertime.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's a big lot.
Yeah, we were on. I think it goes down too. It goes way back
In the
down into a pond. There's a pond that my grandfather had built, and wow, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the pond is still there. There was
So he built a pond.
He dug a pond and he had it stocked with trout.
He did?
Yeah.
Man.
But that was like before my time, because then my uncle's sons thought they were doing him a favor by catching bluegill and putting them into the pond, which then they just choked out the trout. So there was bluegill and frogs down there, and I used to go down and catch frogs. But my grandpa was the director of conservation of the state of Illinois, and we had over like 40 varieties of trees in that place, and there was a fruit
on that
orchard,
yard?
yeah, in that yard, and then lots of flowers. I mean, it was there. I was starting to say the reason it was Game Farm Road is because my grandfather, who I said was my grandfather, got involved in politics, kind of out just because he was a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he took a train trip, and on this train trip, my grandpa he and his father, they had a farm, but they mostly just raised prize hogs and prize chickens, like I can't remember the name of them, but there was it was a particular kind of hog, like Poland something hog, and chickens, and they would show them. And our attic was full of big silver loving cups for the best Poland hog, he was on a train trip taking chickens down to Southern Illinois to go to some competition. And he sat next to a guy who was in politics. And by the end of the train trip, he was the guy's campaign manager. And that guy became the governor of Illinois.
Get the fuck out of here.
10 or 20 years later.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So my grandpa was in the governor's cabinet. He ran his campaign, and he was like, "What do you want to do, Glenn?" And my grandpa was like, "Well, conservation, because that's hunting and fishing." And he just basically hunted and fished. That's kind of what he did.
On the government.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
He gave a piece of the family's land to the state to start a game farm, which was like a little zoo. There was a little zoo there when I was a little kid, but mostly what they did was raised pheasants to be released into different game preserves to be hunted.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same way that you would stock some place with fish, you would stock them with pheasants. So we had,
I didn't know they were stocking them either like that.
Hundreds and hundreds of pheasants down the road. And
my uncles would. I had an uncle that would hunt pheasant. And they would mount it on the wall. I'm like, I don't know. It's not a peacock.
No,
you know
it's
what I mean?
not.
It's not like this.
Well, you can eat them. They're like,
yes, you can
people
eat
do
them. I
but
get it. I don't
not,
get displaying.
They're not. Yeah, no.
It's like, is that a crow?
Like, yeah. What a brave man! You shot a bird.
But it's not. And then you're mounting it like it's this gorgeous thing. It's pretty.
Yeah,
it's
no.
pretty.
They're beautiful
They're
birds.
pretty, but I don't know
that's
if
a
I'm
male
putting that
too.
on
Like
my wall.
the females are not. They're sort of like as a lot of birds.
Mm-hmm.
The females are like more sort of plain, so they can hide. Yeah, they're more camouflageable. But so that's why it's Game Farm Road, and my grandpa was the director of conservation in the state for 2 terms, and that's why my mother and her sisters went to school in Springfield, Illinois, because that was the state capital.
Okay.
And they lived there while my grandpa was in the governor's cabinet. Oh, and another summer job, because my grandpa was the chairman of Kendall County's Republican Party for 29 years. And he was a very nice man, and everybody loved him. And he also sold insurance and real estate, but not real didn't try real hard, and more often than not, like my grandma would go to his office in downtown Yorkville. He had to write it down. And downtown Yorkville is like 2 blocks of old storefronts down by the river. And she'd go into my grandpa's office, and more often than not, there was him and a bunch of other old men playing cards, like on a Wednesday at like 3 p.m. and drinking whiskey out of coffee cups.
The Wayback is sponsored by BetterHelp. Let's talk numbers. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up fast. But with BetterHelp online therapy, you can save on average up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and on time. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach. We've been rocking with BetterHelp for a while. We love therapy. We love working the mind out, not just the body. And if you're even considering it, if it's something where you're like, maybe I should give it a try, give BetterHelp a try. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. It's convenient too. You can join a session with the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/Wayback to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Wayback.
And that was just kind of, he hung out. That's what he did. But he also was powerful. Like he could get jobs done. And he was, was a benevolent kind of power. Although like I say, there was a game farm down the street, and we had this beautiful yard. And we would sit, sometimes I'd be sitting at the breakfast table, and there'd be people walking around looking at our yard like it was a arboretum or something. It was not unusual for people to just stroll around our
checking
yard
your trees
because it was so pretty, and then a lot of flowers and then fruit trees. But there was a guy named Herbie Markeline who worked at the game farm, but he worked at the game farm until lunchtime, and after lunch, he worked on our yard. 5 days a week, worked on our yard, which I just never processed until later, like, oh, that's graft. My grandpa was getting his yard made beautiful on the state of Illinois' dime.
Yeah.
And we used to have, because if you go back,
and he's hunting and fishing on that dime.
And he's hunting and fishing all he wants. And we had a big long.
He figured it the fuck out.
We had like a farm driveway, like a driveway that went in, and then kind of like a big open area where tractors and stuff would park. That would every year or every couple of years, a state road crew would come in and blacktop that. It would take them 15 minutes with one of those big, you can see the driveway there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they would come in and blacktop that. And I just thought that's what everyone got. Like, it was like, no, nobody gets state of Illinois, asphalt trucks to come in and a whole crew to come in and like roll it out and, in 15 minutes. So, but that was those times. But my grandpa also, he got my brother a job at the game farm. And my brother said that they used to have around the big pheasant pen, they used to have they would get every vehicle, like from like a riding lawnmower to a tractor to a backhoe, and have races around the pheasant pen. And I got a job at a state park through my grandpa. Then I did that a couple summers called Silver Springs, which was just a real pretty park that was down by the river. And I used to work there and paint outhouses and pick up trash and feed the fish. There was like fish that, we'd go out in the outboard motor every morning and feed the fish. And it was actually like, it kind of made me, it was a moment where I was like, if I don't like find something that I want to do with myself, something kind of grown up and career wise, like I could do this. Like I could just kind of basically do yard work. Do yard work in a pretty place.
I tell you, these days I think about it all the time. I would love to have a yard and I just have a riding mower on Saturday or whatever. Just go out and cut the grass.
Yeah. It's
not be bothered.
It's not bad. I mean,
little therapy out there.
And it was such a great lesson. Like one of the first days that I worked there, because I do have like a real work ethic in me, and that when you like to do a good job, like and to like, it matters to me that I make my boss happy.
Mm-hmm.
And the first day that I went to work, I was painting an outhouse, a new outhouse that was like, it was like cinder block up to about, 6 feet. And then from there, it was all timber. It was like a timber roof and all kind of rough timbers on the inside. And it was open above the top. So like there was airflow. But I was just painting the timber in the inside. And it's really rough lumber. And it's just with one brush. And I got the inside, like I didn't finish. I painted it all day, went back for lunch, came back and painted again. And when the ranger came to pick me up at the end of the day, I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't finish the outhouse. And he went, well, there's always tomorrow. And I was like, oh, he laughed at me. He's like, I don't give a shit. He's like, if it takes 3 days, it takes 3 days, So that was always like, oh, and that was just, it was a very low pressure existence. And I was like, oh, I could do this,
Tell me about vacations growing up. Are you taking them? Are you flying? Are you driving? What are you guys doing?
Both. It depended. Like we talked earlier about my Aunt Pat, my mom's older sister, and she was the adventurous one. She was the one that would go live in different places and she was married 5 times to 4 different men. One of them she gave him another shot and it fell apart again. But she lived all over. She started out, she moved to Chicago. She was like the only person in the family that moved into the big city.
I was going to say, that's the big city.
Yeah. And then she lived in Florida for a while. She lived in Atlanta for a while. She lived in Dallas for a while. She lived in San Francisco for a while.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And we would go visit her. That was a lot of our trips. And I want to say we did drive to Atlanta once, but we also flew to Atlanta because I remember, and that was, I think, my first time on an airplane. And I was probably about, I bet you I was 9 or 10, because I think no, it was before my little brother and sister, because they're 9 years younger than me, my half brother and sister. And we were flying on the night of 4th of July. And you could see the fireworks all over the place, and it was just something I'll always have that, because you could just see, you could, looking out of the window of the plane as we're coming into Georgia, you could see like literally 20 fireworks displays going off at once, and we didn't do sort of like the big ones until. Like I think I was a teenager when we like went to Disney World. Although that's not true. We did.
Who you going with? Moms?
That was my mom and my older brother and my younger brother and sister. But this must have been after she split up with my stepfather because he wasn't there. But we also did when my brother and sister were little. We did one really cool trip. We got on the train in Joliet, Illinois, and we took it out to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, actually Oakland, and then took a bus into San Francisco, which is how you do, to see Aunt Pat when she lived there. Mm-hmm. And she lived that was the husband she married twice, and he made a lot of money. She had a beautiful apartment that you could see the Golden Gate Bridge here and Alcatraz here.
Wow, yeah.
And it was like on the top of a hill. And you also had a view into like 15 different apartments. And my brother and I, little perverts, stayed up watching all, like practically the entire night, and saw so much nudity.
Did you?
Saw fucking.
Did you?
Yes. It was fantastic. And my aunt and uncle too had like binoculars. And
they knew it was
yeah,
up.
yeah. They were. I was like, this is not. It's no coincidence. There's binoculars here. But yeah, we saw like there was like a right across the way. There was like a little penthouse built on top of one of the buildings, and there was a really tall man and a very short Asian woman, and they were married. And they would get home and they would be nude, like within 30 seconds.
Oh,
of
just
getting
walking
home.
around
Nude and like nude all the time that they were at home. And they had sort of like an outdoor sort of patio garden, and they'd be out there nude. They didn't give a shit. And my aunt told me that once that down the hill, she was in the grocery store and she was like getting something off the shelf and turned and like face to face with them. And she went, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." And they never met her or anything, but she was just like, she sees these people naked all day. Yeah. "Oh my God, I'm sorry." And then from there, from San Francisco, we got in a car and drove down the coast and stopped in Carmel and I think Pismo Beach, and then came down and went to Universal Studios.
This is a
for a little bit.
trip,
yeah,
dude.
Universal Studios and then Disneyland. We stayed at Disneyland Hotel, and and that was a big one. But before that, it was like we didn't do a lot of vacations that weren't like going to visit family and then maybe going to Six Flags while we were there. I did travel, and I was on the train a lot going to visit my dad. But yeah, that's the big vacation that I can remember. And then there was the Disney World later, which was pretty fun. And I still like Disney stuff.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, living here and having kids. We used to go, especially when there was a cheap Southern California rate, we used to go all the time. And like, I have different people who were like, "You go to Disneyland a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, I got 2 little kids and it's fucking 45 minutes away and it's Disneyland."
Yeah.
Like, it'd be like, if you had a peach tree in your backyard, you eat a lot of peaches. Yeah, it's a fucking peach tree,
You grew up in the Midwest. Tell me about snow days. What are you guys doing on your snow days?
Oh, playing in the snow. But yeah, there was, whenever there was a big snow, we would listen to the radio. There was a little local radio station, WSPY, which stands for Sandwich, Plano, Yorkville, which was left to right, the streets that or the cities that were along Route 34. And you would listen to hear school closures, and they would do it, like Manuka, it was actually where Nick Offerman is from.
Oh, okay.
But you'd hear like Sandwich School this, and Plano this school, and Bristol this school, Sugar Grove, and be like Yorkville grade school. And like, oh yeah, like we don't have to go to school. And it was probably a lot. There was a lot of playing in the snow. And also it's a state fucking snowplow coming and plowing our driveway.
Oh yeah, I forget about that.
Yeah.
You guys had it made. Pristine driveway.
yeah. Oh. And
I forget about that.
There was one year where it had been a big blizzard, and we had big pile of snow at the end of our driveway where they'd piled it all up. And there was an old rusted swing set that had fallen apart, but all the pieces were like stacked up in the backyard. Nobody had thrown it away yet. And my brother and I shoved one of the legs of the swing set down into the snow. And by this time it had melted and it was kind of ice on top. And we played, I don't know if it was Indians or what, but tying each other to the pole and then throwing big chunks of bark that we tore off a tree on each other like knives or like hatchets. And so he went first, and I tied him up and threw this, and it was like,
I thought you were going to say snowballs.
No,
for sure.
well, snowballs,
tree bark.
By that time, I don't even think there was snow. Like the snow was snowball makeable.
I see. Yeah.
But he did his turn, and then it was my turn, and he tied me to this pole, like with my hands down like this, and I'm on this little hill. And he's throwing shit really hard. And he might have been throwing snowballs that are mostly ice balls at me. And I thought like, oh, the pole's loose. I bet I can pull it out. And I also thought like it would also be like a good bit, like, oh my God, look at, Frankenstein has freed himself. And so I pulled out the pole out, but the pole was like this far down. So when I got it out, I could not support it. So I fell face first with my hands tied to my side down a slope. Like it was probably a 2-foot drop beyond what would have been level onto ice, catching the full brunt of it with my forehead, like bam, onto my forehead. And, my brother came over and was quickly untying me and said, don't tell him, don't tell him, don't tell him, don't tell him. And I went inside and went upstairs and my mom was on the toilet and I was like crying and she's like, what happened? And I was like, yeah, Gus tied me to a pole. I, of course, I made it like he tied me to a pole. I didn't tell him that I was a willing accomplice. And I took my hand away from my head and she went, oh my God. And that's when I really started crying. That's when I really started crying. And I swear to you, like a purple half apple on my head. And it was there for months. Months. I had this like giant fucking knot in the middle of my head. And for a few years afterwards, you could still kind of see like the shaded remnants of it. Cause it was,
it fucked you up.
It was a bad, Damn, it was a bad knock there. Just country fun.
Country fun.
Yeah.
We got to get you out of here, Andy
All
Richter.
right.
Thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Promote one more time, please.
The 3 Questions podcast and the Andy Richter Call-In Show on SiriusXM.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for allowing me in the back of your station wagon.
You're welcome. Thanks for hipping us to I didn't know about that door. That's a new one, man. I'm going to look for that.
Custom cruiser.
As always, Ryan Sickler on your social media, ryansickler.com. We'll talk to y'all next week.